The most feared mafia boss in the city was unconscious at my feet, and someone had locked the door from the outside. I had worked at the Cole estate for 4 days, long enough to learn one rule everyone repeated without smiling. No woman entered Adrian Cole's private room at the end of the west hallway. Nobody explained why. Nobody needed to. Adrian was 35, controlled half the city's underworld alliances, and could silence a room by looking up from his coffee. That night, I was carrying fresh linens when something crashed behind his door. Then glass shattered. Then nothing. "Keep walking, Emily," one of the guards said. I almost did. Then I noticed the lock. A faint silver scratch crossed the brass plate, fresh enough to catch the hallway light. Someone had turned the lock from this side. "Is Mr. Cole alone?" I asked. The guard hesitated. That was enough. I grabbed the emergency key from the housekeeping cabinet. "You cannot go in there." "Then you open it." He did not move. I did. The room smelled like rain, old leather, and something faintly bitter. Adrian lay beside his desk, one hand near a shattered tumbler. A black envelope rested several feet away, one corner burned. On the wall, an antique clock had stopped at 9:47. I dropped beside him. "Mr. Cole." His breathing was shallow but steady. I reached toward his shoulder. His eyes opened. Gray-blue. Focused. Far too alert for a man on the floor. His hand closed around my wrist. Not painfully, just enough to stop me. "Who locked the door?" he asked. Not "where am I?" Not "what happened?" I do not know. His gaze moved past me toward the hallway. "Who knows you came in?" "The guard." Adrian released my wrist and forced himself upright against the desk. His face had gone pale, but his voice remained level. "Call Marcus Reed." Nobody else. Within minutes, the mansion changed. Doors closed. The front gates locked. Phones disappeared into security boxes. Marcus arrived with 2 men and a private doctor. Adrian refused to leave the room until Marcus photographed everything exactly where it had fallen. Even barely able to stand, he was still commanding the house. "Nobody touches the glass," he said. His eyes shifted to the burned envelope. "Nobody touches that either." I should have left. Instead, I noticed something else. The clock. Adrian looked at me. "What about it?" "The power never went out. The hallway clocks are still running." Marcus checked his watch. It was 10:16. Adrian stared at the frozen hands for one long second. "Take it down." The doctor finally convinced him to sit. I stepped toward the doorway, but Adrian stopped me. "Emily Carter." Hearing my full name from him made me turn. "You saw the lock before you entered?" "Yes." "Anything else?" I thought about the bitter smell, the glass, the envelope. "Not yet." Something almost like approval crossed his face. "Good answer." Marcus returned carrying a tablet. Whatever was on the screen changed the room. "Boss, we have a problem." Adrian held out his hand. Marcus gave him the tablet. The security feed showed the west hallway at 9:40. Then the image jumped forward to 9:50. 10 minutes were simply gone. Adrian's expression became colder, not frightened. "Who can erase footage?" he asked. Marcus hesitated. "Senior access only." Silence settled over the room. Adrian looked at every man standing around him, then at me, the new maid who had broken the one rule nobody else dared challenge. "Lock the estate down," he said quietly. "The person who did this is still inside." By midnight, nobody had left the Cole estate, and Adrian had already begun lying to the people closest to him. Dr. Bennett examined the residue from the shattered tumbler while Marcus pulled access records from every terminal connected to the security system. I waited outside the study until Adrian summoned me back inside. He was standing now, pale but steady, wearing a fresh white shirt beneath his charcoal jacket, as if collapsing 40 minutes earlier had been an inconvenience he refused to acknowledge. 3 folders rested on his desk. One had my name on it. "You investigated me," I said. "I verify everyone who enters my house." "You could have asked." His gray-blue eyes lifted. "People answer questions. Evidence answers differently." I looked at the folder. For days in his house, and my entire life was apparently already inside it. Evidence can be planted. Something changed in his expression. Not agreement. Attention. Before he could answer, Dr. Bennett entered carrying a sealed report. "This was not sudden," he said. "You have been exposed repeatedly in small amounts, probably for several weeks." My stomach tightened. Adrian barely reacted. Purpose. Weakness. Dizziness. Eventually collapse. Whoever did this appears to have wanted deterioration, not an immediate medical crisis. Adrian turned toward Marcus. Who regularly has access to anything brought into this room? Marcus answered carefully. Me. Daniel Mercer. Thomas Grant. Daniel was Adrian's senior advisor. Thomas managed the estate. Marcus had protected Adrian for years. 3 trusted men. Adrian opened the first folder. Then we give them something worth stealing. By 1 in the morning, he had created 3 false operations. Marcus was told a sensitive coal transfer would pass through Boston. Daniel received Baltimore. Thomas received Newark. None of the transfers existed. And now? I asked. Now we wait for someone else to believe one does. I understood why people feared him. Adrian did not respond to betrayal with panic. He created a room for it and waited to see who walked inside. The next morning, the estate looked normal again, but nothing was normal. Adrian held meetings, answered calls, and quietly moved 2 coal captains away from vulnerable territory while Marcus monitored Vance family communications. I was replacing flowers in the dining room when Daniel Mercer arrived. Silver at his temples. Calm voice. 15 years beside Adrian, according to the staff. He entered the study and emerged 20 minutes later without looking concerned. At 11:38, Marcus appeared at the doorway. Adrian dismissed everyone except me. Why am I staying? I asked. Because you told me evidence can be planted. Marcus placed a tablet on the desk. Vance moved people toward Baltimore. Daniel's information. My chest tightened. Adrian remained silent. Do we bring him in? Marcus asked. No, boss. Baltimore was Mercer. Adrian looked toward the rain beyond the windows. That is what someone wants me to conclude. Marcus frowned. Adrian turned back to the tablet. Check who accessed Daniel's file after I gave it to him. Minutes later, Marcus returned with a different expression. Someone opened the digital copy. When? 7 minutes after you left Daniel's office. Account. Marcus hesitated. Administrative clearance. The credentials were masked. Adrian leaned back slowly. Daniel had leaked nothing yet. Someone had stolen the lie meant to expose him. Then Marcus enlarged the access record. Beneath the masked credentials was one detail the intruder had failed to erase: the terminal location. It had not come from Daniel's office. It had come from inside the servants' corridor. The servants' corridor should have narrowed our search. Instead, it made everyone in the house a suspect. Adrian ordered Marcus to say nothing about the terminal. By breakfast, Daniel Mercer still believed Adrian suspected him. Thomas Grant still believed Newark was real, and whoever had stolen Baltimore believed the trap had worked. Adrian wanted it that way. A frightened traitor hides, he told Marcus. A confident one moves. Then he went downstairs and conducted business as if nothing had happened. I tried to do the same. Around noon, I was pushing a linen cart toward the west hallway when a bitter smell stopped me. It came from a folded hand towel on the top shelf. My stomach tightened. I had smelled it beside Adrian's broken tumbler. I did not touch the towel. I found Marcus. 10 minutes later, Dr. Bennett sealed it for examination. The result came quickly. The same substance. Adrian asked one question. Who placed it there? Housekeeping records pointed to Kevin Brooks, a 23-year-old employee who had worked at the estate for 8 months. Marcus wanted to bring him upstairs. Adrian refused. Watch him. If he tries again, then we learn who gave him the courage. Kevin finished his shift without knowing anyone was following him. That evening, he drove 6 miles to a parking garage, left a small envelope inside an unused locker, and walked away. Marcus's team watched another man retrieve it. Inside was a copy of Adrian's schedule and a list of West Wing security rotations. Kevin was involved, but Adrian was not satisfied. He has access to towels, he said, not senior security files. Kevin was a messenger, not the person controlling the board. Adrian ordered Marcus to let the dead drop continue while feeding Kevin harmless false schedules. Then he turned his attention to something nobody had checked yet. Me. Your work schedule, he said. I stared at him. You already have my entire life in a folder. I need Monday night. Marcus pulled the staff records. My original schedule had placed me in the East Guest Wing. At 4:12 that afternoon, someone changed it. West Hallway, 9:30 until 10. I felt cold. Who changed it? Marcus checked twice. Administrative override. Adrian's eyes narrowed. Same credentials? Same masking method. Suddenly the night I found him looked different. I had not happened to be outside his room. Someone had put me there. Adrian walked to the frozen clock Marcus had removed from the wall. 9:47, he said. You heard me fall when? A little before 10. And what would a new employee normally do after finding an unconscious man? I understood. Call an ambulance. And probably emergency services, Marcus added. Adrian nodded. Within minutes, every rival family would know I had collapsed inside my own house. His weakness would become public. His captains would question him. Vance would move. But I called Marcus, I said. Adrian looked at me. You ruined the opening move. The thought should have made me proud. It did not. Someone had chosen me because I was new, ordinary, predictable. Except I had not been predictable enough. Marcus was still studying the scheduling record when his face changed. Boss. Adrian took the tablet. The administrative credentials had finally resolved against an archived identity. Marcus spoke quietly. Samuel Cross. Adrian stopped breathing for half a second. I noticed because it was the first time I had ever seen surprise reach him before control. Who is Samuel Cross? I asked. Adrian kept staring at the screen. A man who left the Cole family 18 years ago. Marcus swallowed. And according to every record we have, those credentials have been dead ever since. Adrian did not ask whether Samuel Cross had returned. He asked who wanted us to believe he had. By sunrise, Marcus had confirmed the archive credentials were genuine, but could not prove Samuel had used them. Adrian ordered him to preserve the records and tell nobody what they had found. Then he made another decision. Emily leaves the estate. I stared at him. I did not ask to leave. Someone changed your schedule because they needed you outside my door. Now they know you did not behave as expected. So you are hiding me? His eyes settled on mine. I am removing a piece they already tried to use. 2 hours later, Marcus drove me nearly 30 miles to a quiet house surrounded by trees. 2 security men remained outside. Adrian did not. He returned to the city before noon because 3 Cole captains had requested private meetings after hearing rumors about his health. That was when I understood the difference between protection and power. Adrian was not abandoning his war to stand beside me. He was moving me off the board while he fought it. Through Marcus, I learned Adrian had deliberately allowed the rumors to spread. Vance representatives began contacting smaller crews aligned with Cole. Adrian answered by quietly changing routes, delaying sensitive meetings, and watching which captains suddenly became nervous. He was pretending to weaken while measuring who moved toward the empty space. He arrived at the safe house after midnight. Rain darkened the shoulders of his charcoal coat. He carried 3 folders and looked more tired than he would ever admit. Did you find Samuel? I asked. I found people who want me looking for him. He poured coffee and opened a folder. Samuel Cross had been one of his father's most trusted strategists. 18 years earlier, he disappeared from the Cole family within days of Adrian's mother, Evelyn, dying during a period of internal betrayal. Was he the traitor? I asked. My father believed he was. Do you? Adrian looked at me. I believe certainty is expensive. It sounded like something the man from 4 days ago would never have said. I almost smiled. Then I asked the question that had followed me since my first night there. Why was your room forbidden to women? His hand stopped above the folder. For several seconds, only the rain answered. My mother discovered someone inside the family was selling information, he finally said. She hid proof before anyone could take it from her. In that room. That was her study before it became mine. I had expected some cruel tradition behind the rule. Instead, Adrian's voice became quieter. After she died, my father sealed it. He said no woman would ever be pulled into Cole business through that room again. So he was protecting women? No. Adrian looked toward the dark window. He was protecting himself from remembering that he failed one. The silence between us changed. For the first time, I was not looking at the mafia boss everyone feared. I was looking at the son of a woman whose last secret had outlived her. Then I remembered something. The clock. Adrian turned. What about it? You said your mother hid proof. The clock stopped at 9:47, but there was no power failure. What if it was not broken? He stared at me for 1 second, then called Marcus. We returned to the estate before dawn. Adrian carried the antique clock into his study and examined the back panel. Beneath a layer of dust was a tiny brass latch. He pressed it. The wooden casing opened. Something small dropped into his palm. A narrow brass key. Adrian did not move. Engraved along its edge was a single letter. E. Evelyn. The key did not open the safe in Adrian's desk. It opened something his father had apparently spent 18 years pretending did not exist. Adrian tested 3 locks before he stopped in front of the antique bookcase where the clock had hung. His fingers moved along the carved wood until he found a narrow brass opening hidden beneath the lowest shelf. The key turned once. A section of the bookcase released with a soft click. Behind it was a steel compartment no larger than a kitchen cabinet. Marcus stood near the door while I watched Adrian open it. Inside sat a leather ledger, a faded photograph, and an unfinished letter addressed to him. Adrian touched nothing for several seconds. Then he lifted the letter. The handwriting belonged to Adrian Cole. I knew because her name was signed at the bottom. Adrian read silently, his expression giving away almost nothing. "What does it say?" I asked. He handed the first page to Marcus instead of answering. Evelyn had discovered secret agreements connecting members of the Cole organization to rival families. She believed someone was deliberately creating distrust inside her husband's leadership, feeding each side different information until nobody knew whom to trust. One sentence had been underlined twice. A family ruled only by fear will destroy itself the moment its leader appears weak. I looked at Adrian. He was already looking at me. The poisoning suddenly felt less like an attack and more like an experiment. Someone had made him weak, erased the cameras, placed me outside his door, and waited for his organization to panic. "They are repeating it," I said. "What happened 18 years ago?" Adrian opened the ledger. Names, dates, payments, agreements. Some belonged to men who were dead. Others belonged to families still powerful enough to start wars with a phone call. Marcus leaned closer. "If Vance gets this, they can break half our alliances." "Then Vance does not get it," Adrian said. No anger, just a decision. He turned another page and stopped. Mercer appeared 3 times in the margin. Daniel Mercer's family. Marcus exhaled slowly. "Daniel's father worked with your father." Adrian said nothing. For a moment, every clue seemed to point in one direction. Daniel had received Baltimore. Someone accessed his file. His family name was inside Evelyn's secret ledger. It was almost too perfect. I remembered what I had told Adrian the night before. Evidence could be planted. "The ink," I said. Marcus looked at me. "What?" I pointed without touching the page. "The name Mercer. It reflects differently." Adrian moved the ledger beneath the desk lamp. The surrounding handwriting had faded to soft brown. Mercer remained darker. By noon, a document specialist Adrian trusted confirmed it. The Mercer entries had been added after Evelyn wrote the original notes. Daniel's family had been framed. Adrian immediately called Marcus into the study. "Nobody clears Daniel publicly." Marcus understood. "You want them to think we still suspect him. I want whoever planted this to believe it worked." Adrian then ordered Daniel quietly protected. Kevin's false information channel left open, and rumors spread that Daniel would be removed from Cole leadership within 48 hours. It was the coldest thing I had seen Adrian do, not because it was cruel, but because he could turn his own reputation into bait. 6 hours later, Kevin made another dead drop. This time Marcus recovered a handwritten message after photographing it in place. Adrian read it once. Then again. "What does it say?" I asked. He placed the paper beside Evelyn's ledger. 14 words had crossed 18 years to reach him. "Remove Mercer, and the family will finish destroying itself. Samuel Cross." Samuel Cross had signed the message, but Adrian refused to give him the reaction he wanted. "Leave the note where Kevin expects it," he told Marcus. "Let Samuel believe I am still deciding Daniel's fate." By morning, rumors had spread through the Cole organization that Daniel Mercer was finished. Adrian did nothing to stop them. Instead, he summoned 5 senior captains separately and asked each man the same question. "If Mercer betrayed me, what should happen next?" Their answers were different, but Adrian seemed more interested in what they did after leaving than what they said inside the room. Marcus monitored calls and meetings. I watched Adrian turn silence into pressure. By noon, something unexpected happened. Samuel's people made no attempt to recover Evelyn's ledger. "Maybe they do not know you found it," I said. Adrian shook his head. "The message mentioned Mercer immediately after we opened the compartment. They know enough. Then why are they not trying to steal it?" He looked at the ledger. "Because they want me to use it." The answer changed everything. If Adrian treated every old accusation inside Evelyn's records as truth, he would begin removing his own captains, breaking alliances, and punishing families for betrayals that might have been manufactured. Samuel did not need the ledger. He needed Adrian to believe it. "He wants you to destroy your own organization," I said. Adrian's expression remained calm, but I saw the anger in the stillness of his hands. He wants fear to do it for him. That afternoon, Adrian did something nobody expected. He called each captain back alone. You may leave the Cole family today, he told them. No penalty. No retaliation. Decide before sunset. Marcus looked almost uncomfortable when he heard the order. I understood why. Adrian had spent years building obedience. Now he was testing whether anyone would remain when obedience became optional. 2 captains left. 3 stayed. Adrian did not punish the 2 who walked away. You meant it, I said after the last meeting. A false choice tells me nothing. And if everyone around you agrees only because they are afraid? His eyes met mine. I finished quietly. Then how do you know who is loyal when they have a choice? Adrian said nothing for several seconds. Then he turned to Marcus. Watch all 5. At 8:23 that evening, one of the 3 men who had chosen to stay made an encrypted call from a private office. Marcus traced the receiving network through an outside contact. Adrian expected Samuel. So did I. Marcus entered the study with a look that told us we were wrong. The call did not go to Cross. Adrian stood. Who received it? Victor Vance, the rival Mafia boss himself. Adrian walked slowly toward the window. For days, we had assumed Samuel was directing Vance from the shadows. But if Adrian's captain reported directly to Victor, the structure was different. 2 operations, Adrian said. Marcus nodded. Possibly 2 agendas. Adrian looked at Evelyn's ledger, then at Samuel's message. Samuel wants me to tear Cole apart from inside. Vance wants whatever remains afterward. So they are partners, I said. For now. Adrian picked up his phone. Which means the fastest way to break them is not to attack either one. Marcus waited. Adrian's voice stayed quiet. We make each man believe the other intends to betray him first. Adrian did not move against Victor Vance or Samuel Cross. He gave them reasons to move against each other. Before sunrise, Marcus delivered 2 carefully different pieces of false information through channels Adrian knew were compromised. Samuel's network learned that Victor planned to take Evelyn's ledger and cut him out once Cole weakened. Victor's people learned that Samuel had secretly preserved evidence capable of destroying Vance alliances. Neither message accused anyone directly. Adrian understood that suspicion worked better when people believed they had discovered it themselves. By afternoon, the effect had begun. Victor canceled a meeting with one of Samuel's intermediaries. Samuel stopped sending instructions through Kevin. 2 financial arrangements connecting their networks suddenly went quiet. You separated them without confronting either one, I said. Adrian stood beside the study window, watching rain darken the estate grounds. They were never loyal to each other. I only reminded them. Daniel Mercer entered 20 minutes later. Adrian had finally told him enough to understand why his family had been framed, but not enough to expose the entire plan. Daniel stared at the altered ledger entry for a long time. My father spent his last years believing your father suspected him. Adrian's face tightened. Mine died believing Samuel betrayed him. 2 families had carried the same lie for 18 years. While they spoke, I looked again at the burned black envelope recovered the night Adrian collapsed. Something bothered me. I remembered exactly where everything had been. The broken tumbler was near the desk. The envelope had been farther away, close to Adrian's hand. You were reaching for this, I said. Adrian looked at me. That night, before you collapsed. He took the envelope from the evidence sleeve and examined the surviving edge. Marcus carefully opened the damaged fold. Something thin was still trapped inside. Half of an old photograph slid onto the desk. 3 younger faces stood outside the Cole estate. Evelyn Cole was unmistakable from the portrait downstairs. Beside her stood a man Daniel immediately recognized. My father. The 3rd man was younger than the archived photograph Marcus had shown me, but Adrian knew him. Samuel. Silence filled the room. Evelyn, Daniel's father, and Samuel had not looked like enemies. They looked like allies. Adrian turned the photograph over. Faded handwriting crossed the back, but half the sentence was missing with the burned section. Only 5 words remained clearly readable. Samuel was not the traitor. Daniel sat down slowly. Marcus stared at Adrian. Every assumption shifted at once. Then why has Samuel spent 18 years attacking this family? I asked. Adrian studied the photograph. Because someone convinced him we betrayed him first. His phone rang. Marcus answered, listened, and handed it over. One of the Cole captains had just requested an emergency meeting with Victor Vance. The same captain who had chosen to stay when Adrian offered everyone freedom to leave. Adrian's eyes hardened. There is our bridge. Marcus understood. Between the old betrayal and the new one. Maybe. Adrian placed the photograph beside Evelyn's ledger. Do not stop the meeting. Follow the information, not the man. Hours later, Marcus returned with records linking that captain's family to payments dating back nearly 18 years. The original account belonged to the captain's late father, a senior Cole figure whose name had appeared harmlessly throughout Evelyn's notes. Adrian found the entry and went completely still. Beside the man's name, Evelyn had written one unfinished sentence. He knows Samuel is innocent, but if he tells my husband, his son will lose everything. Adrian looked toward the closed door. The enemy we had been searching for was not returning from 18 years ago. His legacy had never left the house. By sunrise, Adrian knew the name of the man who had inherited an 18-year-old lie and turned it into a weapon. Richard Hale, one of the 3 captains who had chosen to remain loyal, had spent years protecting the secret his father left behind. Adrian did not summon him. He did something colder. He let Richard believe he was still trusted. Marcus traced the old payments while Daniel compared Evelyn's ledger against archived Cole records. The pattern became clear. Richard's father had framed Samuel Cross, altered evidence against the Mercer family, and convinced Adrian's father that both men were disloyal. Richard discovered the truth years later and buried it because exposing his father would destroy his standing inside the Cole family. Then Victor Vance offered him another option. Weaken Adrian, revive the old suspicions, and let history hide the new betrayal. He used Samuel's credentials, I said. Adrian nodded. And Samuel believed the evidence because he already believed my family ruined him. That was the cruelest part. Samuel had spent 18 years seeking revenge for a betrayal that never happened. Adrian arranged a meeting at a neutral property that afternoon. Marcus objected to my presence, so I stayed at the estate while Adrian went with Daniel and 2 trusted men. He did not go to threaten Samuel. He brought Evelyn's original ledger, the photograph, and authenticated copies of the altered records. 3 hours later, Adrian returned. His expression told me the meeting had changed something. He believed you? I asked. He believed my mother. Samuel had recognized Evelyn's handwriting and Daniel's father in the photograph. More importantly, Adrian showed him the financial trail connecting Richard's father to the original deception. Samuel finally understood that Victor Vance had been using his anger while Richard used his name. Adrian offered Samuel no friendship and asked for no forgiveness. He offered him truth. That was enough. Samuel withdrew every contact supporting Vance before sunset. Adrian moved immediately. He called the Cole captains together and placed the evidence in front of them. Richard arrived believing Daniel was about to be removed. Instead, Adrian calmly displayed the access records, payments, false schedules, Kevin's messages, and the link to Victor Vance. Richard's face changed before anyone spoke. Adrian never raised his voice. You were given a choice to leave, he said. You chose to stay because you thought staying gave you access. Richard tried to blame his father, then Samuel, then Vance. Adrian listened until he finished. Your father created the lie. You chose to continue it. By nightfall, Richard had been removed from Cole leadership and every sensitive channel he controlled had been closed. Victor lost his insider. Samuel withdrew his network. Neutral families, shown only the evidence relevant to their interests, abandoned Vance's expansion plan. Adrian had not defeated one enemy. He had separated 3 people who needed one another and let the truth make their alliance impossible. The estate became quiet after midnight. For the first time in days, nobody was running through hallways with folders or whispering into phones. I found Adrian inside the private room, standing beneath the empty place where the clock had hung. It is over? I asked. This part is. I looked at him for a long moment. Then I am leaving. His eyes moved to mine. Why? Because I never chose this world. I chose to help a man I found on the floor. Everything after that chose me. Adrian could have reminded me that staying at the estate was safer. He could have surrounded me with guards or turned gratitude into obligation. Instead, he stepped away from the doorway. You are letting me go? I asked. No, his voice was quiet. I am letting you choose. I packed before dawn. When I crossed the west hallway with my suitcase, I looked back once. Adrian stood inside the room where everything had begun. The Mafia boss who could command an entire organization did not order me to stay. The next morning, Marcus walked past that same hallway and stopped. For the first time in 18 years, Adrian Cole had left the private room door open. 3 weeks after I left the Cole estate, I finally understood why Adrian had not asked me to come back. He could have found me before I finished unpacking. Instead, he gave me exactly what I had demanded from him, a life that belonged to me. I rented a small apartment and took a temporary job at a downtown hotel. My mornings became ordinary again. Coffee before sunrise, 8-hour shifts, grocery bags carried up 2 flights of stairs. No encrypted calls, no men lowering their voices when a mafia boss entered the room. But pieces of Adrian's world still reached me. Daniel Mercer remained his senior advisor, his family name publicly restored inside the Cole organization. Marcus rebuilt estate security from the ground up. Kevin Brooks was removed from sensitive work after cooperating with the investigation. Samuel Cross disappeared from Cole affairs after clearing the truth about Evelyn. Victor Vance abandoned his expansion when neutral families refused to support him. Richard Hale lost every position that had given him access to Adrian's organization. Adrian remained exactly where he had always been. At the top, only the rules beneath him had changed. Captains were no longer rewarded merely for obedience. Information was verified through separate channels. No single advisor controlled enough access to repeat what Richard had done. Adrian had not become softer. He had become harder to deceive. One Thursday afternoon, Marcus walked into the hotel lobby carrying a plain envelope. "He did not send me to bring you back," he said before I could ask. Inside was my final paycheck and paperwork confirming that my employment at the estate had ended exactly when I chose to leave. Nothing else. No message. No invitation. "That is all?" I asked. Marcus smiled faintly. He said anything more would make it look like an order. 2 days later, I drove nearly 30 miles before admitting where I was going. The gates of the Cole estate opened after security recognized me. Nobody escorted me inside. Nobody needed to. I walked through the familiar halls until I reached the west corridor. Then I stopped. The door was still open. Adrian stood inside near the window, reading a file beneath the restored antique clock. The hands were moving now. He looked up. For once, surprise reached his face before he could hide it. "Emily, you never locked it again." "No." I stepped closer but remained outside. "Why?" Adrian closed the file. "Because the room was never the danger." His eyes moved briefly toward the place where I had found him collapsed. The lies around it were. I looked at the doorway between us. "I am not coming back as your maid." "I know. And I am not joining your organization." "I know that too. You are still a mafia boss." His expression barely changed. "That was never unclear." I almost laughed. "No, it was not." Adrian approached the doorway, then stopped several feet away. He could have crossed the distance. He did not. "Why did you come back?" he asked. It was the first question he had ever asked me without already trying to control the answer. Because leaving proved I could. I looked into those cold gray-blue eyes and saw something there that had not existed the night I opened his door. Space. Coming back proved something else. Adrian stepped aside. Not forward. Aside. The choice remained mine. 3 weeks earlier, I had walked away with a suitcase because I needed to know he would let me. Now I crossed the threshold without a uniform, without an obligation, and without anyone telling me where I belonged. Adrian Cole could still command captains, control territory, and make powerful men reconsider their decisions with a single quiet sentence. I had never taken that power away from him. I had only taught him where it ended. The first time I entered that room, I did it because the most powerful man I knew could not stand. The last time, I entered because he finally understood that power could force a door closed, but it could never make someone choose to walk through it.